All right, guys. Topic 3. I want to talk about Tacoma. Now, here's the thing. This is a new segment of this show. When we have gentlemen like yourself on that create these games.
Or ladies.
You're correct.
What up, Nicole Tan? Answer my calls.
Yeah, come on. I want you to pitch us on why Tacoma is going to be awesome.
It is going to be the killer app for VR.
That's what he was waiting for the whole time. You know what? I have discovered the killer app for VR. Tacoma.
We're not doing a VR version. So Tacoma takes place on a space station. From the creators of Gone Home.
Colin sold.
Yeah.
You got Gone Home. You got Space.
Yeah. Gone Home in space. I mean, I'm done, right? Mm-hmm. There we go.
Yes.
No. I guess here's the truth. I haven't worked on the elevator pitch very much. I don't have the like part 1, part 2, part 3.
Yeah,
Nailed
yeah.
it. I think that on some level that's because we are still really internalizing what the heart of that experience is. But I'll try now. So Tacoma is a non-combat first-person story exploration game. It takes place on a space station 60 years from now, 65, 70 years from now. And because I still think of it in terms of Gone Home, right? So a game like Gone Home is all about environmental storytelling. It's you and the environment. It's you and a house, right? Like Firewatch is you and a forest. Everybody's gone to the rapture. It's like you and this village, right? And in some cases, there's characters that you can hear from or that you can see, what they've done, or, environmental storytelling is all about inferring what has happened to these characters in the past, right? With Tacoma, one advantage we have is that we're setting the game in a fiction where there is this digital technology that is surrounding the characters. They're on this space station, Tacoma, and speaking of VR, AR, augmented reality, is like a part of their everyday life. And so a big part of the experience, if Gone Home was just all about finding the evidence of what happened to people and putting the pieces back together, on Tacoma, the crew was having their experience recorded by the station constantly. And so you go into the space, and as you're exploring, you're not finding just the messages, the notes, the artifacts they left behind, but you also see these recreations, kind of like holographic recreations in your augmented reality rig of what actually happened to them at different points over the course of their posting on the station. And it's not just, okay, you can stand there and watch them do something, but because it's being placed in space in your fictional augmented reality rig, you occupy the space with them. You can walk around the characters as they're interacting, as they're having scenes, as they're going through what happened before you got there. And beyond that, what's important to us is each like wing of the station, each like major section of the station, each recording in that space is all of the characters that were there going about their business, going through their scenes. And so you as a player, you're not just finding them sitting there and watching, but characters might be having a conversation and somebody else comes in, starts talking, somebody else leaves. You are in control of saying, okay, that person left. I'm going to go follow them and see what they're doing. But I know these people back here were doing something while I was gone. And you have control as a player over rewinding, fast forwarding, pausing, controlling basically time and space as far as like your relation to the story, because you can say like, wait, I saw this, but I know those characters are over there. I'm going to move the timeline back to this point, and then I'm going to move myself in space over here. And yeah, those two things are happening at the same time. So what does that mean? And basically, we're trying to push ourselves to make you involved in reconstructing this story in a different way that allows you to have that very intimate feeling of like sharing the space with the characters while these things are happening to them, while they're experiencing what you're just kind of seeing echoes of, but also to fully interactively be placing yourself within that whole kind of like structure of what happened to them and putting those pieces back together in like a traditional, environmental storytelling kind of way, but with tools that we wouldn't have had in Gone Home, that I haven't seen in other games like this. So that's why I don't have a sexy elevator pitch.
That was
because
good.
I have,
That sounded great,
I have
yeah.
a cool,
It sounds like you practiced
conceptual,
that.
neat thing. I would like to get that down to 20 seconds, but we'll see what we can do.
Augmented reality gone home in space.
Yeah.
There you go, done.
And we are working with Microsoft on it. It's going to be first on Xbox One and PC, and it's cool because they were kind of like bringing out HoloLens around the same time as we started talking to them, and we and they kind of separately, we heads together and we were like, we can actually like do this in a HoloLens. Like you could put on a HoloLens and see a character in the room with you and be able to walk around them. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but it's just cool to know that like this thing that we started doing just purely as like a far future, like, fictional thing. It's like, if we were able to, you could actually do that with this thing that we're like working on right now. So it's just, it's neat to see that like, it's speculative fiction, but it's not complete fantasy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Jumping off the Gone Home cast from last week.
Yeah.
I left all that out. So for this one, how soon after you finish Gone Home do you move on to this? And is this the first idea you guys were working with? You talked about how for Gone Home, right? It was that you wanted to do the narrative storytelling in the space and okay, let's do it in a house and do this. Was it like, let's do it again in space?
No. The game is called Tacoma because it was originally going to take place in Tacoma, Washington. Oh, okay. And we went pretty far down that road for like the first few months of development. It was another like very grounded story of like people that lived in Tacoma, Washington at a different time than Gone Home took place, and it was about finding out about their lives, and we were working on it, getting it on screen, and I was like, this is way too familiar, we shouldn't be doing this again right now. Like it took a little while to realize like, okay, this is closer than I thought it was going to be. I really don't think that, not just because it felt like people would be like, oh, that's just the same, like, player base, but because we expanded our team on this game, we brought on new people, and it started to feel really tangibly weird that we were making something that was very much like Gone Home, and like part of the team had worked on Gone Home and part of the team hadn't. And there was this feeling of like, oh, you're the guys that made Gone Home and we're doing that again and you know how to do it. And we've never done it before. So, it was like kind of an insider outsider kind of thing to it. And so I've told this story before, but I was, my wife and I went to Crater Lake in Oregon for our anniversary. Yeah, and you can take a boat out to an island in the middle of Crater Lake, which is called Wizard Island. And so we were hiking on Wizard Island, which is pretty much
one does.
Yeah, it was the best.
Wizard hat on, wands.
And I was talking to her about it, and I was like, I think this thing we're making, it's a good idea, but like it's getting too close to what we've already done. I don't think we can do that again, and blah blah blah. And I think we want to make the same kind of game, but set in like a different place where it could work. Like it would have to be like a Arctic base or like a a derelict ship in the sea or like a space station. And she was like, "Oh, space station sounds cool." And I was like, "All right,
done."
And so we talked about it more and kicked around the ideas of like what would be cool about that. And kind of by the end of that trip, I was ready to take it back to Carla at Fulbright and pitch her on it. And then like, we kind of like got our heads around, why is this interesting? Why is it worth doing this? Why wouldn't we do some other setting? Or like, what are the risks? What's going to be hard about this, blah, blah, and got to the point where we're like, yeah, this does make sense. This is something that is different enough to be worth doing. We brought it back to the team, pitched them on it, just kind of went from there. But I think the biggest thing is, we just wanted to get to the point where all of us on the team were facing a bunch of big questions that none of us had answered before. And we all felt like we were in the same boat of like, none of us have made a game exactly like this before, And the cool thing is it's given us these additional kind of like interactive storytelling tools that we wouldn't have had otherwise if we had just stuck with what we thought we were going to do in the first place,
Yeah. We got a couple questions from Twitter.
Dude.
K-Paul DeBoss
Yes.
wants to know, what are some pieces of storytelling that influenced Tacoma? Like film and literature, etc.
That's a really good question. Some of the obvious ones are like the original Alien, right? So the game is about these 6 people that are stuck on this facility together. They're isolated. They're kind of like been shoved off on their own. And it's not the greatest assignment in the world. They all kind of like, they didn't get there because they're like the cream of the crop as far as the company is concerned. Like something means this is why they got this posting, and so The Wire is like an influence because I'm like they're kind of like McNulty's crew that got shoved down to the basement. Like they all did something that means they're here for a reason, but they're trying to do a good job and they have to rely on each other. And so that's something that I've come back to. Breakfast Club, that's about 6 people stuck in a room together and they have to learn how to deal with each other. The interesting thing is that we've had to really learn a new kind of storytelling for us, like not the whole like rewind fast forward AR figure kind of stuff, but our stories that we've done from Minerva's Den to Gone Home have always been like very focused. There's been like a protagonist, like in Minerva's Den it was CM Porter. He was the guy that founded this place. He had this whole thing. There were other characters, but it was like, and similarly, Gone Home, it was about the family, but it was really about Sam, right? Sam had a story and went through the game. There was one story that went through the game. And we kind of, when we started out, we kind of approached Tacoma that way because we didn't know any other way. And it has been a real learning experience to be like, how do you write something differently for it to be an ensemble story, for it to be about something that affects this whole group and it's relevant to all of them and that you can see who they are through the lens of like this shared story instead of just like, here's the main character, we're following their story, everybody else is kind of like secondary. So that's why we've been going back to these pieces of media that are about like a group of people that all have to kind of be in it together and how they get through that.
It's exciting. I'm excited to play it. One of the things I'm curious about is, by the time people see this, I guess Gone Home is finally coming to console or whatever after a long tortured kind of thing or whatever. But fingers crossed. Yeah. Was it important for you to kind of partner with one of the first parties in order to kind of make sure this game gets to a wider audience, a console audience? Because people have been begging for Gone Home on console for a long time, and it took some time. So was that kind of a no-brainer that you would kind of go with Microsoft or Sony or both?
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft was the right partner for us because like we thought it would be great to have like a strong like invested partner at one of the platforms, right? Because like I don't know, whatever, I was on stage at E3 last year, like that's not the kind of opportunity you get if you haven't kind of like unless you're making Fallout or whatever, right? But like if you're an indie, you kind of have to like be have a deal with somebody to sort of be like, we're going to invest in you. We're going to be on your platform. You're going to help us get the word out about our game in ways that we couldn't otherwise, right? And Microsoft is in the position where they're trying to, they're working hard, right? Like to get up in the marketplace, right? Like Sony got a big head start, and the folks at Microsoft, they're like, okay, we got to like really invest in making unique experiences be on Xbox to give people like a really strong reason. Like I gotta have an Xbox. You know what I mean? Like this is on it. They're doing this. It's got backwards compatibility, etc. Right? They're trying to sort of say like, here's our arguments for you should like not write off Xbox. It's got like all this great stuff on it, right? And so when you are an indie that is trying to have like as strong a partner as possible, the platform that is working harder is just gonna be more invested in like making you successful, right? Because Sony they're fine. Yeah. But we're starting to see a lot of really interesting, cool Xbox One exclusives like Oxenfree, which is Xbox and PC. And like Cuphead is coming out. We're gonna be part of that, and just being partnered with the group that's like, we're going to fight for you. We're going to work for this. We're going to do everything we can. It's really important to us for you guys to be successful and be part of this like identity that we're building for the platform to move it from where it is right now. It's a good match. You know what I mean? If you're trying to kind of like have as much support, as much visibility as possible. Totally. And then the folks at Microsoft are just really cool. They're just good. Like the team that we're working with, really experienced, really good people that like, they helped us, like make our E3 presentation, our trailer, like as good as it could be, just with like great feedback. They know how to make an impression. You know what I mean? So we've been really happy so far, just being able to work with them. And it's always, it ain't such a bad thing to only have to like target one console at a time,
sure,
be able
sure.
to get it done. You know what I mean? So that's an advantage too, just on the development side.
Of course.
Yeah.
Look out for Nate Ahern over there, though. I don't trust him.
Oh, nice. I don't know what that means. I just said that weirdly. It's fine.
Another cool question comes from Andrew Taylor. He says, what kind of challenges are there when making a game set in space?
Oh boy, there's a lot. I mean, honestly, because like, I think a big part of it is that it's so unfamiliar. Like that was one of the advantages of Gone Home was it was so familiar. You were like, I can feel like I've been in this house before. Maybe you're sort of like I know what this place is like. I recognize this on some level, and a space station is in a lot of ways totally alien. It's not like a place that you've been before really, except maybe if you've like gone on a tour of a submarine or something like that.
Went to space camp.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that that's the challenge, is sort of like us being like, okay, this is a totally unfamiliar environment to the player, to us, but also to the people in the fiction that live there. And so the cool thing is, part of what that motivates us to do is be like, with that being true, with this being like an isolated space facility with all these technological requirements, how would these people make it feel more like home and feel more like a place that they don't feel like they're just in like a weird lab all the time? And how do we get that across to the player? Because that's going to make it feel more like a real place to the player at the same time, Yeah. There's also gravity and all that kind of stuff that's different. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
You guys have any other questions about
Yeah,
Tacoma?
I'm curious. I mean, I know devs hate these kind of questions when they're working on a specific game, but is this what your studios is this what you want your studio's identity to be in 10 or 20 years? Is this the kind of game you want to continue to make? Because you have a diverse interest in other games, as many developers do that make, maybe make one type of game, but you play your shooters and all these kinds of things. Do you guys want to make like something else at some point, or is this, are you always going to have a story driven, like narrative driven kind of mentality?
I don't really know, Like I don't even know really like what I don't even know what the next step after this really looks like. You know what I mean? I think
Home too.
Okay.
Back to the Greenbriers.
I think it's one of those things where I can't say the answer is yes, because I just don't know what life after Tacoma really even consists of. It's one of those things where we have to get enough distance from it to even know what we want to do next. You know what I mean? Because if you're like, okay, we finished Tacoma, we got to make something else right now, it'll probably be pretty similar.
Right.
But I mean, if we're fortunate enough that the game can do well and then we can get some distance and be like, what does it really mean to keep making games past this? I think that's a really, open question. I think that I think there are some things that would probably be consistent. I doubt we'll ever really make like a violent game. I doubt we'll probably ever make like a hardcore, like skill-based, reflex twitch game or something like that. I would guess probably not. I think that the core people who are involved with what we do, we're just like, we're interested in smaller, maybe more like contemplative experiences on some level. I think there's a lot that you can do with figuring out how to focus in more and go smaller and kind of say like, how can more relatable or just how can we give people experiences they haven't had before, in a way that fits kind of what our aesthetic interests are. You know what I mean? But I don't think that necessarily means the only kind of game we ever make is a first person story exploration game. But I don't really know what else it's going to be, so I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by it. I mean, Gorilla is a great example. We've talked about them a lot. It's like it's like FPS, third person action RPG.
Yeah,
and I'm like, where the fuck did that come from?
Well,
and that's great, and I'm excited about it. So I'm always interested in like,
I think you even look at stuff like Naughty Dog, right? Like they've done third person action games forever, but like Crash Bandicoot to Uncharted to Last of Us, it's the same basic form, but such different, aesthetic goals and kinds of mechanics and things they're achieving without saying, oh, we're Naughty Dog, we're going to do a turn-based space RTS now, know? So I think that there's this whole spectrum of like being able to do something you've never done before without necessarily saying, and now it's time for a submarine sim.
Right. Yeah. No, understood.
Yeah.
Are you prepared to confirm or deny
Oh no.
that Tacoma is in the Gone Home universe?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right, we good?
There you go.
That was much easier than I thought it'd be.
Before we move on to topic 4, do you have any final questions about Tacoma?
Still shooting for this year?
Yeah.
Good luck. What is
Any-
that? What is that? What is that? I'm
That didn't
seriously
sound
wishing.
sincere.
Good luck.
Good
I
luck.
know it's hard making video games.
That's the way I read it.
Do you have any closing words about Tacoma?
No, I mean, thanks for giving me some time to talk. It's cool to get to start to be able to kind of go in depth with it. We're gonna be showing more of it later this year. So
How
keep an eye
awesome will it be?
out. I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10 platinum trophies.
Oh my God.
Nailed it. That's really awesome.
That's
That's a
great.
high
The 10th
score.
one was Gone Homes.